Chapter 1276, The Last Battle. Winner becomes king and takes all, whereas the loser turns into a villain and loses all. King Yama regarded the line highly and even took it as his life's motto. Despite his dismay facing Tang Xiu's soaring arrogance, his killing intent still boiled even though he felt a bit of dread towards him. How many fights and battles had he gone through in his life? Thus, he decided to gamble. Instead of trying to escape to the Nine Nether Underworld, he would rather choose to battle his way out. He was confident that he could save his own hide even if all his subordinates were to die. Taking out a pair of dark gloves and putting them on, he pulled a soft sword from his waist. A sword image flashed and the sword eventually became as hard as sharp steel. Tang Xiu, King of Hell, took a deep breath and fierce light overflowed from his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "We shall meet on the 9th hidden island 3 days later. I want to witness how powerful the might of the great Tang Empire is over there. You know, it's much better to run into such a chance than choosing an auspicious date for this one. Why should we wait for 3 days?" Tang Xiu slightly smiled in response. "Why don't I break the remaining 2 arrays so we can have a good game on the sea surface?" King Yama said aloud, "Today is not a convenient time as I need to adjust my strength to the peak condition. You can choose to storm my Yama Island now and I can only retreat with all my men and wait to return to this world in the future. You can shelter this world for now, but what about thousands of years later? Do you still have the ability to shelter them? Thousands of years later?" Tang Xiu couldn't help but feel shaken inwardly. He was well aware of how true King of Hell's words were. He would leave Earth for the immortal world 2 years later. If this guy were to retreat, it would be equal to letting the tiger breed and leaving an impending calamity behind, which undoubtedly would become a wicked and evil tumor for mankind on Earth. He thought about it and continuously weighed the issue. Eventually, Tang Xiu nodded and slowly said, "Then I shall meet you on the 9th hidden island as per your choice. You have my word on that. If I don't see you there 3 days later, then don't blame me for using every power I have to kill you even if I must chase you down to the Nine Nether Underworld." Contempt and disdain flashed in King Yama's eyes. Since when the Nine Nether Underworld was an easy place to enter? Ghost cultivators would face no problem, but cultivators with other cultivation systems would lose the support of the heaven and earth energy once they entered the Nine Nether Underworld, and they would lose some strength every time they consumed their power. Not even immortals were able to kill him in a short time should they enter the Nine Nether Underworld. As long as he had a chance to escape, an opportunity would always arise for him to make a comeback. Pity that there's no Nine Nether force on Earth, else I could have restored my power to the peak. It would have been very easy for me to kill anyone at the crossing tribulation stage then. Feeling a bit regretful inwardly, King Yama watched Tang Xiu's back as he left with a helpless smile on his demonic and grotesque face. White clouds adorned the fine weather and filled the space of the blue sky. Walking side by side with Xueyu, a thoughtful expression was cast on Tang Xiu's handsome face. It was a no-brainer for anyone with a little brain to realize that King of Hell had some unexpected means at hand, though Tang Xiu had no idea what it was. "Are you sure?" Xueyu's brilliant eyes lingering on Tang Xiu's face. Her voice was very pleasant, but it couldn't hide her inquisitive and doubtful tone. "This King of Hell did say something reasonable," Tang Xiu said. "If he were to take his men back to the Nine Nether Underworld immediately and then destroyed the passage between both worlds, it would be difficult for us to have any chance to exterminate him again. He'll come out once again when we leave and will very likely carry out a crazy retaliation. Those who have a relationship with me may become the targets of his revenge. I can guess that his revenge will be much more fearsome than that of the 9 familial exterminations." "Still, he's the one who chose the time and the location," Xueyu replied. "If he were to set up traps on the 9th hidden island in advance, are we going to just jump in like that? Let's just say that I can only figure out the counter of every trick he has today." Tang Xiu forced a smile and said, "But be rest assured, though. I'll call Yen over to deal with him. This king of hell won't be able to deal any damage to a golden immortal no matter what kind of tricks he's trying to pull. That's a good means, indeed. Shuiyu immediately understood and said, but Gu Yan is kind of constrained by the laws of heavenly Tao of this world, though. She'll be discovered by this world's heavenly Tao. If a mishap happens, then. Tang Xiu took a deep breath and suddenly said, then I'll contact Ji Qimei. I have a plan to make her return to the immortal world first to carry out some preparations over there. A year on Earth is equal to a century in the immortal world. Ji Qimei will go there in advance, and 2 years in the immortal means that she needs to wait for us for 200 years. Letting her go back in advance can be considered that she'll act as a vanguard for our return. But will Ji Qimei agree, though? Shuiyu creased her brows. She will, Tang Xiu said. 3 days later. Tang Xiu personally took command of the 4 major armies and occupied the southern part of the 9th island, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Dark Wind people. Tang Xiu was perfectly aware that this battle was the last war he'd wage on Earth. After this battle, he could spend the next 2 years in a safe and secure manner and then leave for the immortal world after the preparations, and the appropriate time came. Ji Qimei had received Tang Xiu's order and arrived 3 days ago. When Tang Xiu told her his plan, she complied without hesitation. She was also well aware of the fact that none of them knew the situation in the immortal world now. If the Great Tang Empire's army of hundreds of thousands of people were to arrive in the immortal world, and then run into their mortal archenemies, they would very likely fall into enormous troubles. They've come, Master. Tang Oolong quickly appeared in front of Tang Xiu riding on an arrow glider. What about their number? Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and asked. From our observation, the vanguard should be around 5,000 people, and our intel added that these people should be the Darkwind experts the King of Hell has summoned from all over the world, to gather here temporarily. There are also 2 more groups following, about 2,000 strong. Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. That should be all the power the Darkwind can mobilize if my guess is correct. Anyways, have you found this Yama? We have his portrait painted by Black Snake, but we haven't found him yet. Tang Oolong shook his head and said, however, given Yama's strength, he can change his appearance and restrain his aura, which will give us a hard time finding him. Further, Blind Grandma also came and said there's something she needs to tell you. Tang Xiu's expression shifted and he immediately ordered, bring her over. Old Blind had always been staying on 9 Dragons Island, and she occasionally went to the pocket world to cultivate in seclusion. She was indifferent and rarely bothered to get involved in any other issues. Now that she came here all of a sudden, it was obvious that there was something urgent she needed to report. After a short while, Old Blind came to Tang Xiu and said, there's a problem in this battle, Your Majesty. I peered into the heavenly secrets and saw a river of blood and littered bodies everywhere. I also saw horrible vengeful spirits and ghosts. The scenes are just like hell. But I can't see the ending here due to your existence, so I can only rely on the little bits of divination I've done to guess the possibility of bad things that could happen in the following battle. Tang Xiu frowned and turned to look toward the north. With his eyesight, he was already able to see the approaching Darkwind vanguard troops. However, Ji Qimei was already here. With such an immortal powerhouse, what kind of waves could Yama pull out no matter how fearsome his power was? Old Blind, your warning is duly noted. I won't take this battle lightly. You can rest assured of it. Tang Xiu solemnly nodded after being silent for a while. How about giving that 5,000-strong vanguard army to this Old Blind to get rid of, then? I've broken through to the Celestial Master stage after cultivating for years. Even if I'm still far from reaching the Deity Master stage, I'm just a step away from it. I'd like to see to what extent my strength has reached. Tang Xiu gave it a thought and then nodded. Well, since Senior wants to act and have some practice, then please do. There will also be a time for you to fight when we go to the immortal world later. Old Blind slightly smiled. Her body instantly flickered towards the northern side of the ninth hidden island. In a flash, she appeared in front of the 5,000 experts of the Dark Wind. Chanting a vicissitude incantation intermittently, a transparent blade light suddenly slashed forward and swept toward the 5,000-strong army. Puff, puff, puff. It was but only a single strike, yet only several people were able to streak up into the sky and escape the violent blow among the 5,000-strong army of the Dark Wind. The rest were cut into halves and were killed directly no matter how desperately they tried to escape. What power! Everyone present was astonished by the breathtaking blade strike. Such a mighty and berserk power for a frontal clash was the kind of strength that even Shuyu dared not say she could pull out despite her current strength. Damn! The black-robed King Yama streaked up into the sky from the troops in the back. He waved the magic staff in his hand and snarled loudly. Tang Shou! I never thought you'd be this despicable. We have yet to go to the ninth hidden island, yet your people have already moved to kill my people? You're shameless and despicable. Tang Shou rose into the air and sneered. Your men are already here, which means the battle has already begun. We've come to the point where your side or mine will perish, to begin with. You don't think you're just gonna have a cup of tea and chat with me, no? King of Hell glared at Tang Shou and cast a spell. A black fog suddenly burst out and immediately shrouded the ninth hidden island in just a few breaths. So be it. Then let the battle begin. Your great Tang Empire may have armies of cultivators, but my side isn't a soft persimmon either. You want to battle, then a battle you'll have. Let's see how many ghosts your men can kill and how disastrous your losses will be. King of Hell furiously roared as he waved his magic staff more quickly. Tang Shou's complexion changed. He keenly sensed the change in the surrounding temperature that was reduced by more than 10 degrees in a flash. He could also perceive the lingering smell of vengeful spirits mixed in. Chapter 1277, Thorough Extermination. Boo. Boo, wow, this portal really leads to a new world. This place, curse the gods. The air is so wonderful. This world is so beautiful. What am I seeing here? A bunch of fresh walks of life, beings with blood and flesh? Could this be a ranch for us, vengeful spirits? Are these blood and flesh meals prepared for us? Human world? This place is the human world? We finally escaped the 9 nether underworld, brothers. Kill them all. Let's occupy this world and destroy the damned humans. This place will be our paradise later as long as we can pull the 9 nether death chi to this world. Has it been centuries or millennia, huh? We finally came out of the 9 nether underworld. I want to kill. I want a massacre. So much. Comrades, let's prey on these blood meals. There are countless living and souls here waiting for us to devour. Damn, I fucking love this place. I'm gonna build my own ghost domain here. Kill them. A stream of black mist radiated from the underground. Shortly after, the black mist condensed and eventually formed a group of grotesque vengeful spirits. At first, their number was but a few, but with the passage of time, tens of thousands of vengeful spirits rushed out of the 9 nether underworld in just 10 minutes. Tang Shou finally understood what Yama had planned. But he never expected that this King of Hell would dare to release tens of thousands vengeful spirits and ghosts from the 9 nether underworld to the human world. He kept observing and thinking. After 10 minutes of silence, Tang Shou finally determined the strength of the ghosts rushing into the human world. A ruthless and fierce expression appeared on his face as he streaked up high and stood in the air. He quickly gave several hand signals that caused the legionaries who rode the aerogliders from the 4 major armies to go into action immediately. My great Tang Empire's soldiers, today is the day for you to wipe out these ghosts. Tang Shou unleashed his divine sword. Lightning bolt-like sword light instantly swept over towards the vengeful spirits nearby. The 1,000-meter sword beam instantly destroyed hundreds of vengeful spirits. Only a few powerful ghosts were able to escape from the striking range of the sword beam after they were hit badly and seriously injured. Kill. 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 Under Tang Xiu's command, the four major corps, the Dragon Army, Tiger Army, Phoenix Army, and Martial Army, launched a fierce attack on any vengeful spirits that appeared on the intense, fierce battlefield. Tang Xiu was not the only one who acted brazenly. Even Shuiyu, Old Blind, and Tang Guang, who led hundreds of hidden assassination department members, began their killing frenzy against the ghosts. Several kilometers away, Yama's eyes flickered with fierce and sharp glints. Waving his hand, the experts of the Dark Wind immediately lunged at the legionaries of the Great Tang Empire. Yama had injected death qi into their bodies, so the vengeful spirits did not target the Dark Wind members when they ran into them. Hence, Tang Xiu had to kill both men and ghosts. However, he focused his attention on Yama. The moment this king of hell got closer, he launched a heavy blow that killed hundreds of vengeful spirits and then appeared in front of Yama instantly. Didn't you want to see and taste my power before? This 9th hidden island is way too fragile for us. Come with me to the sea. There won't be a problem for us even if we blast a hole in the sky. Tang Xiu stared daggers at Yama and shouted in a deep tone. Yama narrowed his eyes. He could sense the boiling fighting intent coming from Tang Xiu and swiftly said, Tang Xiu, your Great Tang Empire leaves no way out for my Dark Wind to survive, then I'll have you buried along with the dead. I'm gonna kill you today. His glove-covered fists instantly transformed into gigantic fist shadows hundreds of meters in size, and powerfully barraged Tang Xiu in front. At the same time, his soft sword evolved into a dark artifact that turned into overlapping layers of sword shadows that attempted to devour Tang Xiu. Great Ascension Stage? Tang Xiu finally blasted out with his full power. His divine sword turned into a light dragon and instantly swallowed the gigantic fist shadows and the layers of sword shadows. At the same time, he directly cast his Devour Divine ability. As a vortex-like force rapidly formed a twister storm in the surroundings, the vortex completely devoured Yama's strikes, and the strike instantly blasted toward Yama. What the hell is this? Yama's complexion greatly changed. Tang Xiu hadn't unleashed his power to the peak before, that was the reason he couldn't determine the extent of Tang Xiu's power. But at this moment, he could sense that Tang Xiu was tens of times stronger than him. He could even tell that Tang Xiu's cultivation level was at the Crossing Tribulation stage. The Crossing Tribulation stage was a step away and the closest stage cultivators could get before becoming immortals. Once the Crossing Tribulation stage cultivators successfully passed the Immortal Tribulation, they would transform and become genuine immortals. I gotta run. Prior to this, Yama had 2 trump cards to face Tang Xiu. But his expertise in arrays was left in the dust compared to Tang Xiu. And now, even he must admit that there was a big gap between his strength and Tang Xiu's. The battle had just begun, but he knew that he had already lost. You wanna run away, huh? Get your ass back here. Tang Xiu's eyes flickered and pushed his Devour Divine ability to the limit. Thousands of vengeful spirits in the surroundings were all powerfully pulled in, and extinguished by Tang Xiu's devouring supernatural power while he also devoured the scattered ghosts' power everywhere. Yama wanted to escape, but the huge sucking force and the twister gale forced him back continuously and pulled him closer to Tang Xiu. This is impossible. It's impossible for you to have such a formidable power. God damn it. Those 3 old fogies on Earth will never interfere in any issue in the world since I made them swear a heavy oath before. How did you achieve this? How did you become so powerful? Yama furiously growled, his tone and expression full of disbelief. However, he was not to blame. He knew Tang Xiu from the investigation. More than 5 years ago, Tang Xiu was only a muddle-headed, ignorant schooler at Star City First High School. At that time, it could be said that he was just a silly and idiot kid. Even if, say, Tang Xiu had run into some enormous fortuitous encounters in these 5 years, it was still impossible for him to reach the crossing tribulation stage in such a short time. This was all against common sense. Not in line with the heavenly Tao laws. How can a frog at the bottom of a well understand my existence? Tang Xiu sneered. Having said that, he frantically drew the primal chaos force from the celestial bodies in the universe inside his body, while casting his devouring magical ability more violently. Yama's heart was pounding crazily and desperation filled his heart. A savage and ruthless look flickered in his eyes as his right hand stabbed his own chest. The moment his blood sprayed out, a thick death chi erupted from his body and instantly transformed his physique in a flash. Spikes grew on his shoulders and a pair of sharp horns appeared on his forehead. His nose was slightly enlarged and his mouth tilted up slightly. Dense scales appeared on his skin, making him look like a grotesque monster. His aura instantly rose tens of times in a flash, nearly comparable to the crossing tribulation stage. Still, he didn't try to fight Tang Xiu with everything he had but broke away from Tang Xiu's devouring suction. His sorry figure trembled violently and flickered away, apparently trying to escape and save his own hide. Go back. An old figure suddenly emerged out of thin air and instantly blocked Yama's retreating path. A swift and powerful kick directly struck his face and sent him flying backward. The instant after, the flying divine sword impaled his body from the back and crushed his heart. How is this possible? Disbelief was all over Yama's face as though he had just seen the most incredible thing in the world. He used all the strength he had left and growled. Aren't you an immortal? How the hell was an immortal able to appear in this world with its fucking damn heavenly Tao laws? This is impossible. Tang Xiu appeared behind Yama in a flash. The smile on his face looked devilish and evil as he grinned and said, I told you that you're like a frog viewing the sky from the bottom of a well, didn't I? You think this and that is impossible since you lack the knowledge and are ignorant. You must know that there's more than one immortal on this earth. Having said that, he punched King Yama's head and killed him directly. Suddenly, thunderous thunderclap rumbled and the sky was covered by dark clouds coming from all directions. Lighting sparks blasted amid the layers of dark clouds and brightened up the whole world. A bit of reluctance was seen on Ji Qimei's face as she knelt on one knee in midair, placing her right fist on her left chest as she said in a deep voice, as a vanguard officer of the Great Tang Empire, this subordinate will leave for the immortal world to investigate the situation over there, Your Majesty. We shall meet again in the immortal world a few hundred years later. A complicated look was cast on Tang Xiu's face as he slowly replied, keep your safety as the top priority in the midst of serious crises, anytime and anywhere. Take care of yourself, Ji Qimei. Please take care of yourself too, Your Majesty. Ji Qimei firmly nodded. An immortal sword suddenly appeared in her hand out of thin air. Waving her hand, a sword beam suddenly cut through the vast sky, tearing open the vault of heaven above before the slit quickly mended. It would be very dangerous, and Tang Xiu was perfectly aware of it. He was well aware that Ji Qimei wouldn't land in the immortal pond when she returned to the immortal world but would randomly appear somewhere. There was even a chance that she would appear in a dangerous place in the immortal world that would drive her into desperate straits. After a while, the cracks in the sky disappeared. Invisible energy swept across Tang Xiu and everyone on the battlefield below. Eventually, bolts of lightning bolted down. However, the target was not Tang Xiu, nor were the soldiers of the Great Tang Empire, but the tens of thousands of ghosts coming out of the 9 nether underworld. The whole scene resembled that of a Judgment Day, an apocalypse. Tens of thousands of vengeful spirits wailed before they turned into black smoke and eventually dissipated from the world. At this moment, Ji Qimei's roar resounded and, shortly after, A scarlet light broke out and streaked up into the vault of heaven from Yama Island's direction before the entire island vanished along with that fearful terrifying aura. Tang Xiu knew that Ji Qimei destroyed Yama Island along with the arrays right before she left. In the wake of these arrays' destruction, the portal between the human world and the 9 nether underworld was also ruined. Tang Xiu looked down and immediately shouted, "All the warriors of the Great Tang Empire, heed my order. Kill the members of the Dark Wind and destroy them completely. Kill." The soldiers of the 4 major legions stormed over to kill the remaining members of the Dark Wind once again. The disparity in strength between both sides was too big, and all members of the Dark Wind were all slaughtered in just 10 minutes, including Yama's 18 confidants. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment and looked at the mostly destroyed 9th hidden island. Then, he suddenly shouted, "The victory is ours. Let us return with this triumph." Chapter 1278, Parting Time. The time gradually passed and years went by. 2 years had passed just like a snap of a finger. The Great Tang Empire, which once set off the whole wave of terror on Earth by destroying the top 3 organizations in the world, House Dolan, and the terrorist forces of the Dark Wind organization, had completely disappeared from the world. Still, no one dared to ignore this force, especially those figures and forces in power. All of them chose to stay dormant, quietly waiting for the next storm the Great Tang Empire might set off. 4 days to the designated time. At the flight line of Shanghai Airport, Li Laoshan was leaning on a black Mercedes-Benz SUV, smilingly looking at Tang Xiu step down the ladder. Counting the time, it had been more than 3 years since the last time he met Tang Xiu. He oftentimes daydreamed and missed the days they spent together. The difference in their ages was obvious, but they were the best of friends in spite of it. Li Laoshan looked at Tang Xiu as he got closer. Opening his arms, he moved to hug him and smilingly said, "Damn, I'm so glad you came back, brother. But why didn't you at least cry out to call me when you got out of the cabin?" Tang Xiu patted Li Laoshan's back before releasing him, then smilingly said, "Me calling you over? Say, like you wanted me to yell, 'Hey, buddy. Hu Han-san, am back,' or something." "Anyways, your tonnage seems much better than ever, fatty old bro." Li Laoshan blushed and rolled his eyes at Tang Xiu in response. He shot back snappishly, "Shit, you really know how to hit my sore point, don't you, brat? But it's true that I was kinda ecstatic when you called me yesterday. You dumbhead really got no conscience, only remembering your old bro, at this time. Just tell me, you won't leave again after returning this time, right?" Tang Xiu put away his smiling face and said, "I'm only here for a day and will be leaving the day after tomorrow. This may be the last time we meet, brother." "What the heck do you mean?" The smile on Li Laoshan's face froze. He stared daggers at Tang Xiu and asked. Tang Xiu didn't explain and helplessly said, "Old brotherly, how about you take the wheel and I sit on the front seat?" Li Laoshan pondered for a moment before giving instructions to his driver. He immediately got into the driver's seat. As Tang Xiu got inside, Li Laoshan immediately started the car and drove out of the airport. The reason why he could take his car into the airport was thanks to borrowing Tang Xiu's name. After the car left the airport, Li Laoshan began the conversation with a serious face. "I know you very well, brother Tang. You never speak nonsense. Where exactly are you going this time?" Tang Xiu pointed his finger upward and calmly replied, "I taught you a cultivation technique in the past, so you should have gained some achievements in your cultivation in the past few years. You also know that a man always seeks his way up just as water seeks its way down. I can break the barrier of this world soon, so it's meaningless for me to stay here longer. That's why I want to meet some of my longtime brothers before I leave." Li Laoshan fell into silence. Speaking about walking on the cultivation path, he indeed had entered into this rank and could be regarded as a cultivator himself. After all, he had been cultivating for several years and his strength was now at the foundation establishment stage. He already knew that Tang Xiu was going to become an immortal. However, he had long been aware of his own lacking aptitude. It was nearly impossible for him to reach such a cultivation realm and then ascended to become an immortal and meet with Tang Xiu in the immortal world. Thus, as Tang Xiu just said, this meeting would be the last time the brothers could meet in this life. In the evening, the two brothers got drunk at Paradise Manor. Afterward, Li Laozhan was taken away by his bodyguards to rest, whereas Tang Xiu intentionally didn't force out the alcohol of his system. He just took a shower leisurely while washing away all the unwillingness. Then, he changed his clothes and drove back to the Blue Star Villa complex. At this moment, a group of young people had gathered in Tang Xiu's villa. Some of them didn't know each other and some others were already acquaintances. But all of them conversed harmoniously due to each being related to Tang Xiu. Shit, why hasn't Big Bro come back yet? The dishes delivered by the everlasting feast hall will be cold soon. Long Zhenglin caressed his bald head while his burly figure leaned on the door of the room and his eyes gazed outside. Yuan Chuling, who had added more tonnage to his weight recently, was hugging a curvy hot girl with a delicate face. He put out the cigarette and smilingly said, "Big Bro said that he'll come back, so he definitely will, Long Zhenglin. Man, I've not seen him for years already. I've been missing him for so many years, and I don't give damn care to wait for a bit longer." Long Zhenglin rolled his eyes and let out a strange grin. "You miss Big Bro, huh? Isn't the bell in your arms going to be jealous?" "Nah. I'm not jealous," the hot girl tilted up her chin and smilingly said. The quiet girl next to Kite suddenly interjected. "I think she'll be jealous. That's for sure. Some men here do care more about their brothers than their women. That makes me very jealous." The whole house burst into laughter. Aside from Long Zhenglin, there were also Yuan Chuling, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, Zhao Liang, Shui Chao, Long Zhengyu, Ji Mu, Bai Tao, Huang Su, Fei Shan, Qin Shaoyang and some others. Besides these young masters, there were also 6 girls who were the companions brought by some of them, as well as their girlfriends or wives. Suddenly, Long Zhengyu's eyes lit up as he gazed at the door and ran towards outside, shouting, "You're back, Big Bro." Right as Tang Xiu entered the gate of the courtyard, he saw Long Zhenglin rushing towards him, smiling and stretching his arms to give him a big hug. After releasing each other, the rest of his longtime brothers also rush out of the villa. The scene was full of laughter and merry. The group of young people in their 20s stayed in the courtyard for a long time. After everyone returned to the villa's living room, Tang Xiu glanced at the 6 girls while Long Zhengyu introduced them. Afterward, he directly took out 6 jade pendants from the interspatial ring and handed them to the 6 females, saying, "Older sisters-in-law, younger sisters-in-law, I've met some of you but not others. However, since you all come together with my brothers, I'd like to offer my sincere blessings to you all. I hope you can accept this first meeting gift from me." The 6 females all knew Tang Xiu's identity, so they didn't refuse. After saying thanks, the curvy girl even praised. "Big brother, you have no idea how Yuan Chuling keeps giving me an earful of how great you are all day long. But seeing you in person is really much better than hearing about you from him hundreds of times. I'm really glad Brother Yuan can have a brother like you." Tang Xiu slightly smiled in response and then said, "Sisters-in-law, I didn't expect that my brothers would bring you all here. But since we've met, would all sisters-in-law be kind enough to accept my invitation and play at Paradise Manor? The people there will arrange everything for you." What do you mean?" The curvy, hot girl stared blankly before she subconsciously turned to stare at Yuan Chuling. At this moment, several young people in the room also looked confused and stared bewilderedly at Tang Xiu. They knew Tang Xiu and understood the meaning in his words. It was obvious that Tang Xiu wanted these females and their family members to leave. Yuan Chuling frowned and asked again, big brother, are you? Tang Xiu ignored him. He looked at the door with a smile and said, Tang 28, tell the others to prepare cars and take them to Paradise Club. Remember to tell the general manager there to prepare delicious dishes and drinks. Tell him to satisfy these ladies' requests as best as he can. Understood. Tang 28 flashed from the outside and entered. He then looked at the 6 females and said, Please follow me, ladies. Finally, the 6 females followed Tang 28. Tang Xiu then turned around. He glanced over everyone's faces and then said aloud, Somebody, please move out the dinner table from the dining room over here. Suddenly, 4 12-year-old teenagers showed up from the other room and dashed to the dining room. They quickly moved the dining table and chairs to the living room. The tea table originally placed in the living room was moved away, leaving only some sofas that were moved outward a bit. Long Zhengyu creased his brows and asked, What's wrong with you, Tang Xiu? Tang Xiu didn't respond and waved his hand instead, as 10 boxes of God's nectar suddenly appeared on the table. Afterward, he quickly opened the wine box and took out a bottle of God's nectar and removed the remaining 60 bottles in front of everyone. Flicking his finger, the 60 bottles' caps were plugged out. Only at this time did Tang Xiu speak in a deep voice, Brothers, I'm going to drink 3 bottles of God's nectar to show my respect for you all. Having said that, he downed 3 bottles of God's nectar in one breath. The moment everyone's face changed, Tang Xiu wiped off the alcohol stains from the corner of his mouth and spoke again in a deep voice. I have a bad personality, and it has been very difficult for me to make real friends. However, I was lucky to meet you guys. Long Zhengyu interjected, Please don't say that, Tang Xiu. You're someone who values relationships and virtues, Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. He then took a deep breath and said, Please listen to me first. I've always been very cautious and wary even when I've become brothers with you guys. It was because I've once experienced the bitter taste of betrayal that left deep pain in my heart. But then, I met all of you, people whom I really recognize as brothers. All of you are this Tang Xiu's brothers, my brothers. Brother is not a word you need to say, but one that one admits in the heart. From today on, I'll engrave the face of each of you in my heart. Even if today is the last time we meet, I absolutely will never forget you all. After speaking, Tang Xiu took out a few packs of cigarettes. He opened one, took a cigarette and then lit it up. He took several puffs before he slowly said, I'm going to leave. And this time, I'm perhaps leaving for eternity. Long Zhengyu dashed toward Tang Xiu, stared daggers at him, and then spoke in a deep voice. The transportation means today is very developed. No matter where you are in the world, we can find you as long as we miss you. Please don't say such a farewell. It's like saying we'll be separated in life and death. We're brothers and will forever be brothers for a lifetime. Tang Xiu forced a smile and said, I, too, believe in your last line, but the place I'm going to is not in any corner of this earth. I'm a cultivator. I know you may have discovered some particularities and anomalies around me after getting along with me for so long, and heard of my identity as a cultivator. If anything, I have my path I must traverse on, whereas you guys also have a life you want to live forward. Although I do wish to have you guys by my side as I go forward, you have your own path to take, while I must take my own. Where are you going to, exactly? Long Zhengyu asked in a deep voice. The Immortal World. Chapter 1279, Brothers Forever. Don't think all myths are false. Many of them are actually true. These stories may be unfounded or baseless, but there are always traces one can seek out there. The place I'm going to is the Immortal World, a world that may look beautiful on the surface, but is more brutal and cruel than hell in reality, Tang Xiu said with all seriousness. Long Zhenglin was the first to manage himself and responded, The Immortal World really exists? How is this possible? I've never heard any real celestial beings nor immortals exist. It's all true. Tang Xiu confirmed. Suddenly, everyone fell into silence. After a long while, Shui Chao agitatedly tilted up his head to look at Tang Xiu and asked in a deep voice, "Can you take me with you, Tang big bro? I want to follow you no matter how brutal and cruel that place is." "Hold on." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "Many times I thought about this previously and oftentimes I had the idea to teach you cultivation techniques so you can go with me to the immortal world in the future. However, I chose not to after thinking it through. You guys all have relatives and friends here. This world is your place. What will happen to your families and friends here if I take you guys with me? Brother Tang, my mother has passed away. I only have a wife and a son by my side. Only the three of us in the world left." Shui Chao said aloud, "I really hope you can take us with you if you can. Aside from some brothers here, I have no one else worth remembering or being together with." Long Zhenglin suddenly turned to Long Zhengyu. He suddenly grabbed a bottle of wine from the table and spoke with all seriousness, "Elder brother, although I hate to part with you, I still want to leave with Big Bro. Doing this makes me an unfilial son, I know. Please be more filial and devoted to Dad and Mom on my behalf." Long Zhengyu's complexion changed. "You're perfectly aware of my fidgety and hyperactive character, elder brother." Long Zhenglin continued, "Staying here without Big Bro, Tang will make me live a muddle-headed life in the future. I love adventuring and stimulation. I want to pick my own path. I was nothing but a street thug before I met Big Bro, but I was able to reform myself ever since I met him. He changed my mind and my path in life. Else, I'd have become nothing but some second-generation silk pant, a dickhead who trolls around the streets and alleys of Star City." Long Zhengyu's lips squirmed a few times and he finally asked in a deep voice, "Have you really thought this through?"
"Yeah."
Long Zhenglin firmly nodded and said, "I can definitely live a thrilling and splendid life by following Big Bro. Being with him, I'll never look back. Elder brother, I've already thought this through although I only spent a very short time to think about it." Long Zhengyu also grabbed a bottle of wine and bottle toasted with Long Zhenglin. He then downed the wine in one go and said with a reddish face, "I respect your choice as your brother. From now on, the second son of the Longs has died and only lives in our hearts." Long Zhenglin's eyes turned bloodshot. He gritted his teeth and downed the wine as well. He then turned and stared fixedly at Tang Xiu, asking, "Will you take me, Big Bro?" Tang Xiu slowly closed his eyes and fell into silence. After a long while, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, "All right, you Long Zhenglin and Shui Chao's family of three can go with me to the immortal world. But be prepared to follow all my orders when we get there, else I'll kill you guys with my own hands. Be sure to visit your relatives first, you'll never see any your family members again when you die. I promise. I promise." Long Zhenglin and Shui Chao shouted in unison. Tang Xiu slowly shifted his gaze to the others' faces. He could see their hesitation, so he said in a deep voice, "None of you will speak anything else about this matter to me. I'm going to teach you guys a cultivation technique before I leave, with which you'll be able to become a cultivator yourself. When you have great achievements in the future, you can come to the immortal world to find me. But we all will forever live in each other's hearts if your cultivation can't reach that realm. The reason why I invited you to here today was, in fact, because I want to drink this wine happily and get drunk with you all. Are you guys willing to hang out and get drunk with me?" Their eyes turned reddish. Long Zhengyu, who was the oldest among them, was the first to grab another bottle of wine and shouted in a heavy voice, "Let's drink to send off our brothers, everyone. Drink. Salute." That night, everyone drank until they were completely drunk. Even Tang Xiu didn't force out the alcohol out of his system and fell drunk on the sofa. The next morning, when Tang Xiu woke up from his sleep, he looked at a group of people in a messy state literally everywhere. A warm smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth before he headed to the second floor to take a shower. changed his clothes and began to arrange some arrays. By noon, when everyone woke up and sobered up from their drunken state, Tang Xiu began to teach them cultivation techniques and some other things to walk on the cultivation path. Afterward, he provided medicinal pills, body-tempering liquid, and supplementary array methods. With various effects combined, he eventually helped them set foot on the path of being cultivators. Although they were just able to sense the flow of qi, they were already able to control the flow of energy, albeit barely. Early in the next morning, everyone except Long Zhengyu had already left. In the study on the second floor, Tang Xiu took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Long Zhengyu. "Zhengyu, you're the oldest, the most mature and steady person among the rest. Further, you're also someone with remarkable compassion and righteousness, so you're worthy of my trust. Please accept this interspatial ring. Drip a drop of your blood on the ring and it will be completely yours." Long Zhengyu followed Tang Xiu's instructions and then asked after putting it on, "There are quite a lot of things inside." "They're all cultivation resources," Tang Xiu said. "I put enough resources and some pills for you guys to cultivate for hundreds of years. You can read the records about each pill in a booklet, be it their effects, the best time and cultivation stage for you to take them. Everything has been written clearly on the booklet. Further, I also put 4 other manuals there, respectively for arrays, alchemy, refining, and records on resources and other materials. All these things are for you guys after I leave. Do pay more attention to others and help them. I hope I can meet you again in the immortal world in the future. I'll be waiting for your arrival there." A warm feeling surged inside Long Zhengyu's heart as he firmly nodded and said, "I, Long Zhengyu, swear that I'll never swallow these things for myself, let alone neglect everyone else. Trust me, I'll try my best to take them all to the immortal world to meet you there in the future." Tang Xiu patted his shoulder and said, "Remember, you'll need a massive number of cultivation resources to assist you if you want to reach a very high cultivation level. There are 2 islands in the South China Sea where you can lead your trusted friends later. One of them is used to rear fierce beasts and the other one is for medicinal herbs plantation. If your cultivation has yet to reach the golden core stage, do not open the island that rears fierce beasts. But the island with herbs plantation is okay for you to manage. Additionally, if you want to cultivate faster and obtain more resources, you'll need tons of money to back it up. I'll give each of you a 2% stake in the magnificent Tang Corporation shares, and you'll have a 20% stake. Some people will find you later to sign the contracts. There are many contracts you need to sign which you'll find out later. You're very familiar with the situation in 9 Dragons Island. I hope you can use it as your base camp. When you can master the array formations that cover that island, I want you to take and manage it. At that time, I'll have the island's transfer document stored in the palace there for you at that time. There's a pocket world in Longquan Mountain in the western region as well. I've sent some people to seal the entrance to that pocket world a few days ago. Only after you've reached the nascent soul stage will you be able to enter it, else all of you will die inside it. In the back mountain of my hometown, the Su family village, there's a natural feng shui array with spirit spring inside. Although it has been used by my people over the years, the spiritual energy in the earth vein there is still abundant. If you want to break through to the golden core stage, or the nascent soul stage earlier, take your time to cultivate in seclusion there. Do it after you've thoroughly studied the array manual I gave you." Tang Xiu explained a lot of things at one go, while Long Zhengyu directly picked up a pen and notebook to record everything Tang Xiu said. "Is there anything else?" Long Zhengyu's heart was filled with warmth, but his expression was full of seriousness. Tang Xiu took out a cigarette and lit it up. He remained silent for roughly a minute before slowly looking upward and saying, "There's one more thing which I think is necessary for you to know. The Chinese authorities have established a secret base in the Taklamakan Desert. It's been 3 years already. There have been researches and development of high-tech weapons being carried out in that secret base. I was the one who gave them all those weapons which previously belonged to a certain advanced high-tech civilization from outer space. If my estimation is correct, that place will be able to manufacture the first interstellar battleship, which will also mark the first time that mankind is able to leave Earth and set foot on the Milky Way. The power structure all over the world will inevitably change at that time, so you must be extra careful. Do not believe anyone outside your very close circle unless it's absolutely essential. That means, it's possible for China to rule over the Earth at that time? Long Zhengyu was aghast and exclaimed in shock. I have no clear idea about the situation that will unfold in the future, Tang Xiu said. But you must remember to never oppose the Chinese authority later. You can choose to leave if they're making trouble and make things difficult for you. Further, I also want you to manage one thing for me. What is it? Long Zhengyu asked. It's about Duanmu Lin, Tang Xiu said. He's the Special Abilities Bureau's director. His loyalty to the country is above all else and is unquestionable. It may be great and all, but you must never get in touch with him more than necessary. Remember to be on guard against him and keep an eye on his movements. Don't easily reveal your identity as a cultivator. Else, he will very likely make you risk your life for his own gains. The most important thing for you is to keep cultivating and improve your own strength. Long Zhengyu frowned and said, but you haven't told me what you want me to manage. Tang Xiu replied, help me look after some families such as the Ouyang family on Jingmen Island, the Muse of Beijing, and... I know. I get it. Long Zhengyu nodded and interrupted Tang Xiu, and then seriously said, it's about all the families and people that have a special relationship with you. All right, I'll secretly look after them for you. Chapter 1280, The Nine Maids. Tang Xiu patted Long Zhengyu's shoulder and then took a deep puff and blew the smoke out, saying, if there's someone who wants to deal with you, even Duanmu Lin, go contact 2 people. These 2 people will definitely help you, and they are the last card I leave for you. Long Zhengyu's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, who are they? Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin, Tang Xiu answered. I'll keep it in mind. Long Zhengyu nodded. Tang Xiu lit up a cigarette again before he got up and said, please do take care of yourself, brother. Also, there's a place in this study where I've set up an array to conceal it. If you can find it and crack that concealing array, there are still many things I left here for you to manage, including the shares allocation of the magnificent Tang Corporation, the ownership of the Everlasting Feast Hall, and, well, shortly put, there are still a lot more. I'll leave them to you to manage later. I definitely won't disappoint you. Long Zhengyu nodded and hugged Tang Xiu again before he turned around to leave. Tang Xiu's figure flickered and then blocked Long Zhengyu's path. With his back facing Long Zhengyu, he spoke again, this villa is yours later. The documents have been processed in advance and they are also in this study, waiting to be signed by you. You gave me the King Manor Villa in Southgate Small Town, so I give you the documents for this one in return, brother. I'm leaving now. Farewell. A long time passed. Long Zhengyu still looked at the door. Tang Xiu had disappeared. Eventually, he let out a sigh and then turned to look around. He finally came to the desk, stood there and grabbed several folders of documents on the table. Southgate Small Town, House Tang's residence in Beijing, Blue Star Villa Complex, Star City Walled Hill Village Real Estate. Long Zhengyu kept reading several documents quietly and his eyes turned redder as time passed. Clear tears dropped down from his eyes. Only at this moment did he finally understand how deep Tang Xiu's affection was toward him and how much he trusted him. This life of mine was saved by you. I may be alone now, but you'll always be my brother no matter if it's in this lifetime or another. He took a deep breath and was about to turn around and walk out of the study. Suddenly, he caught sight of a video recorder in the corner and it was still actively recording. After a short while, Long Zhengyu realized that Tang Xiu had set it up to record everything he said to him previously. Tang Xiu. Brother, I understand. Long Zhengyu went to the window and looked at the scene outside and murmured to himself. He knew that Tang Xiu had long left and would leave this world. On an island somewhere in the South China Sea. A total of 215,400 people stood straight with their eyes all fixed on the dark sky. Thunderclaps and lightning bolts rumbled and blasted down from the thick dark clouds, making it look like an apocalypse had struck this part of the world. As Tang Xiu and Gu Yan stood in the air, Tang Xiu slowly lowered his head before he took a deep breath and then said, "Yan, seek and retrieve the remaining zodiac jade carvings. Once all 12 zodiac jade carvings are in place, I can start the array that will send us directly to the immortal world." Gu Yan replied, "There are still 3 people left we need to see before we go." Tang Xiu's expression shifted. He recalled those 3 spiritual senses from some regions around the world back when he was in Japan. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to the northwest. However, the first to appear before Tang Xiu, Gu Yan, and more than 200,000 people of the Great Tang Empire, were 9 beautiful women in white dresses flying in the air. They looked like immortal maidens descending from the 9 heavens and appeared above the island nearly in a flash. "Sis Zhongling, my heart is beating fast, so he should be here. Sis Zhongling, I feel a pain in my head. It feels like there's something drilling out of my head. I don't feel well." The stars-like pupils of the other 8 females constantly scanned everyone present. Although they also saw Tang Xiu and Gu Yan standing hundreds of meters high in the air, they were unable to see their faces clearly. It was like there was a space distortion that covered their faces and blocked them from seeing clearly. The female in white who stood in the middle, Zhongling, seemingly endured uncomfortable torment. Even the energy and blood in her body began to stir. Whoosh! A figure flickered and instantly appeared in front of the 9 women in a flash. Gu Yan slightly creased her brows. Her eyes flickered and a strange expression appeared on her face as she asked, "Who are you?" The 9 women exchanged glances and looked vigilant. They could clearly see Gu Yan's face at this moment, yet it made them feel more uncomfortable and in pain. They felt that she was very familiar, so very familiar that they felt strange. "I'm Zhongling. Who are you?" Zhongling paced forward and asked in a deep tone. "I'm Gu Yan," Gu Yan replied. Buzz. A ray of light suddenly tore open the darkness in Zhongling's sea of knowledge. It was just an instant moment, but Zhongling's face was full of disbelief and she quickly shouted, You're Xiao Yan?" "Xiao Yan? What a familiar address." The address made Gu Yan recall the days when she accompanied Master in the immortal world. How many people called her like that? It was definitely a few. Suddenly, Gu Yan's eyes flashed with coldness and she shouted, "Who exactly are you?" Zhongling's hands covered her head and her floating figure seemed to tremble a bit. Her eyebrows creased deeply and she shook her head to shake off the pain. "I can't remember. I really can't remember. Why can't I remember anything? What exactly is our mission? Who exactly is the person we must find?" At this moment, however, Tang Xiu came. He looked at the 9 women in front and slowly said, "You don't know or remember anything, then why did you come here?" His voice caught the attention of the 9 women. As they looked up, their eyes fell on Tang Xiu's face, and they could clearly see it now. Suddenly, all of them trembled and dazzling lights burst from their eyes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the 9 women. The 9 auras then merged into one and all of them let out ear-tearing screams the instant after. Along with their screams, their aura streaked up into the sky and a seal rune appeared and glittered in the dark sky. Shortly after, the seal rune broke into pieces and the aura of these 9 women began to soar violently. In just half a minute, their aura became so strong that Tang Xiu and Gu Yan became shocked. Celestial immortals? Gu Yan's lips squirmed a few times and her killing intent instantly filled her eyes. If any of these 9 women were to exude the slightest killing intent, she would untie her seal and kill them. Tang Xiu, however, looked at the 9 women in disbelief. His lips slightly opened up as he muttered in a slightly trembling voice that entered the 9 women's ears. Immortal Forbidden Seal? A seal on a mortal spirit and soul that destroys 5 senses and 5 memories, to be used for reincarnation and transmigration, and to follow the fate and soul of the person who cast it on you. Don't tell me, you all have injured yourselves and then cast the forbidden rebirth in the forbidden immortal seal art? Guyen turned to him and asked, what exactly are these immortal forbidden seal and forbidden rebirth, master? Tang Xiu took a deep breath and shot a complicated look at the 9 women. Then, he slowly explained, the immortal forbidden seal was a forbidden art, a divine ability secret art to banish or exile someone I've created in the past. Only under some special factors can someone use this type of forbidden art because it will inflict great damage to them once used. The forbidden rebirth, on the other hand, is the most damaging forbidden technique in the forbidden immortal seal art. After activating it, you can indeed find the person who cast this seal on you. You'll be able to follow the trajectory of that person's fate and destiny and go to wherever this person is. I'll use an analogy to make it clear. If these people were golden immortal stage immortals, their cultivation level will be reduced by 3 levels once they cast the forbidden rebirth, and they can never go further than that no matter how hard they cultivate in the future. Guyen was aghast and asked, you mean, all of them used to be perfected golden immortal powerhouses before? Tang Xiu forced a smile and replied, if they really used the forbidden rebirth technique in the forbidden immortal seal art, then they were likely at the perfected golden immortal stage, given their cultivation level at the celestial immortal stage, now. In the sky, the tribulation clouds bubbled up and rumbled as thunder rolled and lightning flashed. Just as Tang Xiu's voice faded away, the 9 women, including Zhongling, finally stopped trembling. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, 2 lines of tears streamed down their faces as they knelt in the air, facing Tang Xiu and bursting into tears. Master. Tang Xiu was dumbstruck and stared blankly. Master? Countless people did address him as such back in the past because he did have hundreds of thousands of attendants then. Most of them were at the golden immortal stage, though there were also hundreds of them at the perfected golden immortal stage. Could it be these 9 women were among those hundreds? Bursting into tears, Zhongling sobbed. It's me, your immortal spirit, master. I used to be your personal maid back then. Immortal spirit? Tang Xiu's body trembled. He instantly dashed to Zhongling's front, pulled her up, and carefully observed her face. Although her appearance had changed, he could see a familiar feeling when he looked into her eyes. That's right. You really are Belle's spirit, Zhongling, the maid who served me for thousands of years. Then, they are? Tang Xiu's lips squirmed a few times, feeling sour and pain deep inside. He used to have a lot of maids back then, but only 9 of them reached the perfected golden immortal stage. The reason why they could become perfected golden immortal stage experts, on the one hand, was due to his own guidance and teaching, while on the other hand, was thanks to Shui Qingcheng, who often gave them cultivation resources. With tears flowing, Zhongling sobbed. Master, we heard that you failed to cross the tribulation. It was said that you vanished and your soul scattered. We never believed it then, so we found the scripture of forbidden immortal seal in the secret library. You had cast the forbidden immortal seal on us before, so we just activated it and then came here. We lost our memories of the immortal world, so we forgot about you. Fortunately, the seal on us was broken when we saw you and reminded us of what happened. We've been looking for you all this time, Master. Tang Xiu slightly shivered. He could imagine how great the courage and the resolve these 9 females must have mustered before they decided to activate the forbidden immortal seal. Yet, they would never be able to return to the perfected golden immortal stage again in the future. They were forever barred from getting any stronger again. It was like an indestructible spell that had warranted them to the endpoint of their future. You all, was it all worth it? Tang Xiu glanced over their faces and muttered.